welcome to Achieve This, the most unique show in the galaxy. I'm Scott Sycamore. You are about to hear my conversation with the punk rock rebel of Truth Radio himself, Mr. Jack Blood. You should check him out. I enjoyed this talk a lot. I really thank him for coming on. And here we go. Fire the rockets, man. What else do you want? Himself, the man about town, the man about many towns, Jack Blood. Hello, Jack.
Scott, thanks for having me on. Good to share what we have with your listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, it's the magic of this whole internet connectivity thing. You know, you can just get in touch with people and they might actually respond to you and maybe even come on your little talk show. So I truly
appreciate magic. That's what it is. It's witchcraft. It's sorcery. I'm sure they would have thought that, 50 years ago. But then again, that's technology. The double-edged sword of technology, my friend. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad. It's not neutral. Forget what they tell you. It goes where the money sends it. And since we're on Skype, this is a big commercial for Microsoft, I guess.
Right. That's right. Who is kind of a failing company themselves, or at least a stagnant company for the last 15 years.
Well, yeah, right. They're monitoring this call. Hey, how you doing, Microsoft? Go F yourself. Can I say that on your show?
F? I don't know. That's pretty vulgar, man. Might have to
it could mean anything, right?
Right. I think it's blue magic now with the Facebook logo color scheme. It's not even black anymore.
Yeah, they're not even pretending that they're not the United Nations.
How could they pretend such a thing?
How are you? We're still alive today. It's what are we? But 2 months away from the end of the world here.
That's right. Yeah, it's October 18th is when we're recording this, and December 21st is when we all vaporize. So
nobody even seems to care. That's how bad things are. The end of the world has finally come. People have been talking about 2012, December 21st, forever. It's finally here. No one's even talking about it or paying any attention to it because things are so bad in reality that they're talking about that, allegedly, luckily.
Do you think it's maybe that the people who are selling that idea, that date, are worried that it's going to come and nothing's going to happen, so they don't want to push it too hard?
That never stopped him before. No, I think that people just aren't buying into it. This is something certainly 10 years ago, when you had Y2K and all the other fear factors going on out there, people. But today, I just think people are pretty wise. We just had this big terror plot that the FBI set up at the Federal Reserve yesterday. And there really wasn't much blowback on it because people just weren't buying it. This is the government that cried wolf dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And people just kind of, whatever. Yeah, sure, another terror plot. Good job. Yeah, okay. And then they just move on. So the intended effect to demonize those who might criticize the Federal Reserve or whatever it might be, or to show that the FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Force and counterterrorism is doing its job, having no effect. If this was an October surprise by Obama, it really was very limp. Excuse the pun.
Now, these things are so commonplace, as you say, nowadays, and even these sort of 2012 doomsday scenarios. So they have lost most of their power, right?
Well, but there's certain sites, I'm not going to mention any names, but you go to those sites and they have their own doomsday stuff going on constantly. The dollar will crash tomorrow, and some of it has a ring of truth to it. The earthquake will come. The Madrid fault line will open up and swallow up everybody. If you listen to Al Gore and his minions, we'll all be underwater. I think that's what they said would happen, 20 years ago, and yet here we are on dry land. So I guess, people love to be scared. This is why scary movies and slasher movies and zombie movies do so well. They like to be scared, and people do use it. I call it fear porn. People use it and sell it and trade in it. It does seem to work. But I have a feeling that it's less effective today. Maybe people are just desensitized, but I think people are just more aware People are more educated, they're more informed, and they know bull crap when they hear it.
Now, do you think this grand scale...
So, hold on, but that being said,
Yeah.
now, if there actually is an end-of-the-world warning coming, we probably won't listen to it because we are so desensitized. I'm in the theory of be prepared for the worst, but, live the best. Go ahead.
Right. I was going to say, do you think it would be like if there was a real warning or something really happening and the government was trying to warn us that we wouldn't pay attention because we are so conditioned to not believe what they're saying?
Well, let's put that into perspective. I mean, how has that worked out in the past? Everything the government has warned us of, either they've made happen and we found their fingerprints all over it, or it didn't happen and then we just moved on. So I think, there's, as I said on my show this morning, there's about 10 to 15% of the people that will believe anything. All the rest of us, I guess, we're on our own and we got to call them as we see them.
Yeah, I mean, I live in California and we're supposed to be well under the Pacific Ocean at this point, cracked off of the main United States mainland. And I don't know, maybe it could still be to come, that scenario. But yeah, I remember 20 years ago, and it was pretty imminent by then. Well,
we're all going to die. But we're all going to die. First of all, we're all going to die at some point, right? I mean, that's one of the certain things, like they say death and taxes. I don't agree with the latter.
Right.
But, the fact of the matter is, and this is something I'm pretty passionate about, and that's why I want to protect space, because we might need to use it to escape at some point. It might be 1 million or 1 billion years from now. The sun will explode. There will be no trace of this Earth or anything that was ever on it. So, I mean, I guess there's a ring of truth to it, but you have to look in perspective that for more than 2,000 years, and you look at religions and everybody else, and they're always saying, man, this is Armageddon, the end of the world this year. And they didn't mean in 2,000 years from now. And they meant that year, the coming soon. They've been warning you that Jesus is coming and the world's going to end at any time for 2,000 years, and it hasn't happened. So, like I said, you have to really get the most you can out of every minute of your life, and that is, I believe, a process of seeking a higher consciousness and becoming in tune with the universe, because I do believe we are universal beings, although I'm not a religious person. But this fear-mongering and using fear as a control mechanism has gone on as long as there have been people, and there's people wherever you go. That's the problem.
Too many people alive on this earth, or as they, with a capital T, would say. Probably.
Well, that's why there's no utopia, Scott, because people are people wherever you go. That's just it. And once you realize there's no utopia, then we might as well have freedom.
Where would we be without apocalyptic religion?
In a very nice place, I'm sure. But
utopia even, but not.
No, probably not, but at least we'd be more evolved, potentially. And I'm not trying to demonize all the religions out there. I respect people who have religions. I guess we all in some way or another have our own religion, right? I mean, mine is talking to you about the stuff we're going to talk about today. So,
yeah.
But hey, listen, it's dogma. Dogma is a control mechanism. Fear is a control mechanism. So these are things that these paradigms are certainly things that you need.
Hello.
To unlearn what others said, to, question what you're being told all the time, to, I call it de-illusioning rather than disillusioning. So, you have to be aware that pretty much everything is an illusion, and it is a matter of perspective when you're talking about the truth. Obviously, people don't agree on anything ever, nor should they. But those that will tell you there is a one stagnant truth and reality, and that is their God, and their God will kick ass on the other God, and that's why we have to kill your children because your God is inferior. I mean, you could just see this revolving cycle. We need to break the chain, Scott. That's what we need to do.
My God has a bigger Johnson than your God.
Yeah, well, there's that.
That too.
I need evidence.
Yeah, where's the evidence? Show me. Show me this physical.
Oh, well, I mean, some people can feel that when they're bent over, I guess. But
now we've had a couple little dropouts here. No big deal. Could be Microsoft fucking with us. But
Well, that's interesting. Okay, because I've had those on my show, so maybe there is something to that.
Yeah,
that's very helpful.
It's weird because like this perfect Skype connection, but then it's just like boop, dips out for a couple seconds.
It is Skype. Yeah. I don't do my show via Skype, so but it's something to think about. I'm having a conference call later to find the gremlins in my own system, but they're always there. That always happens, and we're back to talking about how wonderful technology is.
Oh, beautiful stuff. So let's get a little bit autobiographical. Where did you come from? Where did you grow up?
People really care about that?
I don't know if they do, but I do.
I
think they do. I think they do.
Born and raised in the West Coast, out of Seattle, Washington.
Oh, okay. And you sounds like you've bounced around a lot since then. You live in Atlanta now, right?
Yes, sir. I'm a gypsy, but I was just talking to my girl about this today. We're kind of always one step ahead of the local police state. So you look in Seattle right now, they had arrested these anarchists, and they'd gone and raided them with absolutely no information. I don't know how they even get warrants like this anymore, but I guess that question kind of answers itself. It's redundant. How do they, patrol us with drones? How do they wiretap our phones and all of this? But there was some anarchists, and I don't know if you saw the story. It's on my website. They had a knock on the door one day, and in come the Joint Terrorism Task Force and Homeland Security and the cops and the military and all these guys, and they want to know right now, where are the anarchist books you have? Where is it flag-making material you have? Do you have any black clothes? Show us those right now. And that story dissolved into a format where we have political prisoners of people who have done nothing in this country out of Seattle. And I've heard, all kinds of bad news coming out of there with the police state. I lived in Los Angeles, massive police state, way ahead of its time. First ones to ban smoking inside or smoking outside, for that matter. First one to require, mandatory seatbelts and insurance and all the rest of it. So we have kind of moved. I mean, I stayed in Austin for 8 years and tried to fight and preserve that great, great, great city. And quite frankly, it was almost a losing battle because as the economy was doing better down there because of so many people working hard and not falling for the BS, more and more yuppies were moving from all over the country, and they came and they want rules. They want lots of them. And they like a police force that shoots first and asks questions later. They like, a cop force that, protects the money and all the rest of it. So we had to book out of there. So generally what I do is, I move where people need me. I'm in radio. So back in the day, that meant you had to move all the time. Yes. And I moved kind of where I moved to go. So Atlanta is the place now. There's plenty of work to do here. We have the Federal Reserve headquarters here. We have the FDA, the CDC here, Lockheed Martin, Jekyll Island, the Georgia Guidestones, CNN, Turner Networks. So there's plenty of targets here for me to work with. But at the same time, as we've come in here, we found it to be, especially the area we're living in Atlanta, in East Atlanta, to be almost an ideal place to be. With great people surrounding us and not too many cops and not too many rules. So, I really like it. It's great. I want to try to keep it that way. But when I start seeing the writing on the wall, probably time to go again. And I know I can't outrun this stuff, but as long as there's a place left I can go where my family can be remotely free, I'm going to make it there. Of course, the moral to the story is you can talk to Randy Weaver about that. You can move to a top of a mountain somewhere and they can still come up and kill your family. And that's not to sound paranoid or I don't hate the police or hate government or any of that, man. I just think that people should be allowed to live free and to, if they're not hurting anybody else, they're not affecting anybody else's life, liberty, or property, they should be left alone. But with technology and global positioning satellites and all the rest of it, there's just really nowhere to go to be totally left alone. But some places are better than others. And I really highly recommend Atlanta for liberty lovers. The rest of you that want to impose rules on all of us, which are all selectively enforced, go move somewhere else. You can go to Austin or something. Go move somewhere else. Don't come here.
Just get there. Yeah, you have a righteous wind at your back, it sounds like. Either that or you're creating all this chaos subconsciously throughout the country. Ooh.
What a concept. I've actually considered that in the past. The more you fight something, the more it comes. There is there could be something to that. I hope that's not it, and maybe I don't think it is. We won a lot of battles in Texas, and it's just it is. Being out there and campaigning for liberty, or being out there and fighting for freedom. I use the word fighting is not in a violent terminology, but standing up for yourself. It's a tough job, and it's something that has to be done day in, day out. And what happened, I know, in Austin is we created figureheads, and we made big Frankensteins, and instead of standing up and contributing and doing everything on our own. And we centralized our movement, and that is exactly what you're not supposed to do. So a lot of people got burned out. They didn't want to play anymore. They didn't want to, stand up for themselves anymore, or whatever. And it got really hard. So in some ways, you make a good point. In other ways, I think, if you're pure of heart and mind, and you think positively, good things will happen.
Yeah, I think I know who you might be referring to, so to speak. Without naming names, with this centralization of the movement with a capital M.
I will not name names.
No, not on this show. So how long's it been since you have had a show of one kind or another?
What time is it here? It's 5:22, a couple of hours.
I actually meant like years. When did you first start a radio show?
Oh, man, that's kind of a long story. I've been in the entertainment business almost all my life, and I've done some radio going back into the 80s. I've done it every day full-time since 1995, though, and I've done my political/alternative news show since May of 2001 is when we started, and we've been going ever since with just a very small break after our 10-year anniversary.
That's fantastic. And you were in Austin when you started in 01?
No, I started in Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh.
This format anyway. And I started a full-time show years before that in Providence, Rhode Island. Moved, came back, long story. But every day for 16 years, let's say that.
Providence, one of the current homes of the mafia that people don't like to talk about?
Not so much.
Probably.
The mafia there were great, actually. See, I mean, I've made this analysis on my show before. One thing about the mafia, the real mafia, not the fake mafia we see now today, but the real mafia back in the day, and I did live on Federal Hill in Rhode Island, you could not lock your doors. You could leave stuff in your car. There was no crime because no one would dare go do crime in that area unless, it was sanctioned somehow. They never hurt anyone that didn't have it coming, and then people say that's a myth. That's pretty close to the truth. Back in the day, when you paid your protection money, they protected you. Unlike our federal government, where they extort and get us to pay protection money all the time and keep coming back for more and can't protect us. The mafia had at least some dignity and code, and I'm not sticking up for them, but because now we've got this global mafia running rampant and corporate mafia, but they don't have any morals, they don't have any codes, or nothing is sacred to them. So when you talk about the old original mafia on the East Coast, and I knew a lot of people in the day that were involved in it, not me, but I knew them, and you couldn't help but not know somebody in that realm. Were pretty honorable people. There was honor among thieves, not anymore. So when the IRS extorts you at a point of a gun to pay your protection money, and then they don't protect you, and then they come back and they want more and more and more money, and there's a price on the heads of our grandchildren, that is not ethical. And I think people can be pushed around a little bit, but you've got to have something that you believe in. And these people, this global mafia that runs shit now, they don't believe in anything. They don't have any code. Nothing is sacred. In fact, that's even their Achilles heel, man, is that they'll kill each other. There is no one is safe. You can talk to Bertie Madoff or Ken Lay or even Osama bin Laden or Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi, or there's just such a long list of people who have been turned on. And they all know it. I think if they're smart enough, they know it. They might want to believe in their own heads that they're immune or they're safe from their people turning on them. But the rats, turn on each other and they throw each other off the ship. And I don't mean to say anything bad about rats. I'm sorry to all the rats out there. But That's the thing. So that is their Achilles heel. Our Achilles heel is that, we have to trust each other, that we have to lean on each other sometimes, and that we are good people who can't go to bad extremes in order to justify the means to an end.
Yeah, the good people's folly is that they care and give a shit about stuff, and that gets exploited by the day, by the global mafia, which has all the corruption and none of the efficiency of the old school style organized crime, right?
And we can't imagine that they would do something like kill 3,000 people on 9/11 to justify war and trillion-dollar budgets and the police state and whatever else came out of that. There were multiple benefits, cost-benefit analysis. We as people, and that kind of hurts us because we kind of do need to be realistic and understand that when the entire world's at stake, when we're talking about billions and trillions of dollars at stake, that people will do anything. And I guess that's part of not keeping your head in the sand and growing up a little bit. That doesn't hurt us. We don't have to become them to imagine what it's like to be evil. You don't have to be evil, but you can't be naive about it. So that we all have our soft points, and our soft points as a human race are generally pretty good. And you can see where that leads. We have it pretty good here, I got to say. There's places around the world that are complete and total hellholes. You look at, darkest parts of Africa, Uganda, Somalia, places where we've been, fighting China in a proxy war over energy or territory, and those people are caught in the middle. And you would never, if you're as bad as you think you have things here in the United States, you wouldn't be able to even imagine how bad it is for these people there. And unfortunately, when you pay your taxes and you go vote and all the things you do, you're basically endorsing that for some little kid somewhere else in the world. And, man, that's why I do what I do. I just need things to change a little bit more for the better, and I try that every day. And we try to make things just a little bit better, wake people up so they're not ignorant, so they're not naive about the things going on. I think once we acknowledge the truth, we can affect the right kind of, sorry for the word, change. We can affect a world that maybe isn't utopia, but is a lot better than the world we have now. And it is almost an endless fight. It's generational. It is, and I think that's why we need to make sure our children aren't indoctrinated to the video game society we live in now, because we're going to need them. And I'm very encouraged when I look, and we looked at all the young people that were coming out to support, somebody like Ron Paul, or to end the Fed, or to Occupy, and all of this, man. And it is encouraging. I think this latest generation is really the best generation I've seen in decades, very long time, and they're way ahead where I was when I was, 19, 20 years old.
Right. There's no choice. They got that black magic technology at their fingertips. How could they not be somewhat enlightened?
No, I mean, they have less excuses. Yeah, you're right.
True. I mean, it's a thing of, well, it's brain freeze, of course, which is what I'm experiencing now. Do you have a lot of people contact you and say, I used to be a dumb sheeple, then I listened to your show, and now I'm not?
Yeah, well, over the years, I don't take that too seriously, because I really believe that it's everybody. You don't hear one person and you say, oh, all of a sudden I'm awake. What you do is you hear little bits all the time, and it's constantly being stored up in you, and then one day you have the enlightenment, and that could come from anybody. So I'm not taking responsibility for that. But I got to tell you, I mean, a lot of people want to go out there and talk to a million people. I just want to talk some sense to one person every day, and this is how I do it. So, we reach tens of thousands of people. I'm really interested in giving people the ammunition to get out there and have proper debates with their friends, relatives, coworkers, people on the street. But no, I mean, I don't have a big enough ego to think that it's me that's done this, that I've, woken them up and taken the sand out of their eyes. It is just a little bit here and there until finally somebody says something that really just triggers the whole thing to make sense. And that's happened to me with philosophy. I've heard, something, stop human suffering, this, that, and the other thing, maybe something that might be Buddhist for a long time. Then all of a sudden one day I just get it. It just, whoa, man, somebody said something or I had an experience and I just got it. So I hope that, in some small way, we're all Johnny Appleseed or whatever. I hope in some small way I can put some sunlight and some water on these seeds that are growing out there everywhere, and those seeds can grow up to be huge, mighty oaks, hopefully not in the Bohemian Grove.
Oh, no. Don't feed the owls, that's for sure.
Don't feed the owl. I love that. That'd be a good bumper sticker, a good sign. I'm going to use that.
Excellent. Let's do that. Trademark. Got to give me my cut, man.
Oh, I don't make any money off of this stuff. Are you crazy?
I know. Huh? Yeah. What is the way to monetize this sort of thing, or what do you do to get the money other than this talk show stuff?
Oh yeah. I mean, look, and there's so many people like yourself that are out there that are spreading the word, and I think it's so cool that you are, and the technology has allowed everybody to do this. I started in radio when you had to be at a radio station.
Yes.
I worked in film when you had to have access to multi-million dollars worth of equipment and film stock and developing, and so now it's just wide open, and I think it's great. How do you make money off of it? If you love what you do and you're passionate about it and you have some talent and you're good, it will always come to you. So although, we've had good times and bad times doing what we do, some great, we've done really good at some points and not so good at others, because I'm not selling out. Being from Seattle,
grungy
punk rocker. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to sell out no matter what. So forget about that. And sometimes I think, God, what would have happened? I mean, because I've been right up there where I could have, made millions of dollars. But no, the fact of the matter is, you get what you need, and that's all you need. You might want more, but we're always taken care of, and I have faith that we always will be. So. But the better you are at something, the more it will come to you, and people come to you, So if you're out there thinking, well, how do I make $1 million off of a website? Good luck with that.
Right.
I could give you a few pointers maybe, but good luck with that, because there's a lot of competition, and you might be better going into another field if you want to make money.
Right. The real money is in money, like finance, Wall Street. Yeah. It sounds like, to do a beautiful segue here, sounds like you have an almost Freeman-esque philosophy with you get what you need, just let it flow, don't worry about the money and all that. Now, to touch on that, you had a show with Mr. Freeman on 10/13. I think it was 2010. Was that the year when the UFOs showed up?
Oh, yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they were UFOs, but go ahead. You can tell people what we did. But
well,
they kind of crazy.
Right. We won't speculate on what they are. Basically, if I remember correctly, you said you were going to do like a prank where you're going to tell people the aliens were landing, and then there actually was this sighting over New York City at the exact time. Just tell me about when it was going on there.
Yeah, I think we were going to do because there was some big prediction out there by one of the predictors.
Yes.
And they were saying that aliens were coming to pick us all up that day. So I think we had decided on the live radio show to do kind of like a little War of the Worlds thing. And we had a few components of that, and I invited Freeman to kind of help, act, I guess. And before we even got started, people started calling in and going, we're seeing stuff in New York City. There's this, and everyone's standing out on the street, and there's this object, and what the hell is this? And I was getting calls from like Europe, and then we watched the internet, and we saw some other stuff coming in. I don't know if all of that was put together for our entertainment, or if there was a prediction and somebody thought to do a big psyop that day. I have no idea. But it did get out of control, and then, of course, the trolls found us by the thousands and began attacking us on that show. I don't know if you heard that part of it.
I did.
Freeman has just an amazing perspective on all of this, and though I don't have a particular opinion or philosophy on. I don't even like calling them UFOs because just because you can't identify something doesn't mean it's an alien. But let's say extraterrestrial life or extragalactical life. I mean, I have my own private opinions, but it's not something that I'm out talking about or I'm very knowledgeable about. Other than I've seen some documentaries and read some books and talked to some experts. So I don't really have a position on that, but certainly other people do. And that show was a free for all. I think we had him on originally because it was October 13th, and there was some kind of a Freemasonic holiday or something else that was going on. And so we did that too that day. But boy, did we get nailed by the trolls. I mean, when they come on you, and I've had this happen a few times, they'll come on you by the thousands. I mean, they're just all over the place. And then there's one guy with 50 proxy names and whatnot, and they are relentless.
Right.
And under that kind of attack, it's withering. You could see, why people get freaked out.
The thousands of trolls could be two guys in some hacker headquarters, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the way we had it, was they looked like 10,000, and it was probably hundreds or something. I don't know. I've been under that kind of onslaught several times, and there's a few times where we used to back in the day have all the hackers working with us, and we'd be able to go find their nest out in cyberspace somewhere and shock the heck out of them that we knew where to find them, So, I could tell you a bunch of stories like that. I mean, when you really kind of knock over the bee's nest, or you're over the target, you do tend to get flack, and we've had our share of it. Boy, I'll tell you, in the last 10, 11 years.
I'll bet. And is that what's sort of going on with the anonymous thing, the hacking collective, and how they're messing with these websites and what did they hit? Some of the bank stuff and everything. What is the nature of their cyber attacks?
Well, I've always thought that anonymous was a convenient way to operate a cyber psyop, and then, of course, to justify the Internet Patriot Act after the Internet Pearl Harbor. The hacktivists have always baffled me. You can't really prove that they're for real. And some of the things they do are highly suspicious. But I got to tell you, with Anonymous, they went after, I don't know if you heard about this girl who committed suicide. She was on Facebook, and I guess she'd been bullied and harassed, and it's kind of a long story, but it's a big story that people have been talking about for the last couple of days. And she put out a cry for help, and who cares? And she ended up taking her own life, this little 16-year-old girl. It was pretty tragic. And so allegedly the Anonymous people went after and found the guy who had started all this and bullied her. And that doesn't sound like something that would be a psyop. But then again, I mean, some of this stuff is very complex. So what I do know is that some of the top hackers in the world work for governments and intelligence agencies. I do know that the NSA has put an open call out for anyone that can hack and say, we don't care what you've done, who you've screwed over, what kind of money you've ripped off, or who you've killed or anything. If you get caught, you'll be able to work for us. I mean, it almost sounds like, if you're stealing from my bank account using some kind of a hacking device, you're basically just padding your resume so you can go work for the NSA. So they've caught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these guys, some of the top hackers in the world, and kind of just like that movie Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio, which is based on a true story. They end up going and working for the government, So I'm very skeptical, and the fact that they're anonymous, I mean, I guess we should be skeptical because it's a great way to leak and psyop things. And it's the perfect problem reaction solution, Scott, where, the Internet's being today I saw on Drudge Report, they're blaming Iran for hacking into banks, right? So something must be done, and they provide the solution for the very problem they themselves created, and that is the loss of freedom and free speech on the Internet, which we're already seeing now. So don't let them out there, folks. Forget about net neutrality. This is a scam. Forget about all of these wonderful ideas for the government to protect you on the Internet. Freedom, is a little messy. It could even be dangerous sometimes. But just keep it the Wild West. Don't let the government come in. Don't let governments come in. Don't let the tax man or the United Nations or all of this, and they have already, but don't let them legislate the Internet if you can help it. Stand up against that. Otherwise, I guess you can go out and create a new free form of communication because this one will be gone.
Yeah, we're going to have to resort to smoke signals or something. once the censorship gets ramped up. Let me ask you this. I'd be
high-tech third eye ESP or something.
Yeah. Activate the pineal gland and go non-physical.
You're on the right track, yeah.
Something like that, sure. Now, I'd be remiss, because we're going so fast here, as I knew we would, 20 minutes left or so. I'd be remiss if we didn't discuss good old presidential race. How you feeling about this one?
Well, I can tell you there was speaking of psyops, there's a huge one going on right now, giving people hope that Mitt Romney is going to win the election. Yeah. It was never planned for him to win. I know there is definitely some opposition on high levels to Obama. I truly believe that they inflamed the Middle East and coordinated the attack in Benghazi or in the neighboring town. They just rounded off to Benghazi. To embarrass Obama and to bring him down. So there are warring factions of the New World Order, if you want to call it that. Sure. But this thing is so scheduled. If you understood the sophistication of the Obama campaign, the amount of money, the connections they have, I mean, they can rig the votes, people. You're going to know. And hey, maybe I am wrong for once. I'm pretty good on this political stuff. So they post all this today. They've really come out hard. Hey, guess what? Romney has a, what is it? In Ohio, he has a 1-point lead. In Michigan, he has a 3-point lead. In Wisconsin, he has a 1-point lead. And these are all within the margin, even in these fake polls, all within the margin of error. So I think that really you want to get to the heart of the matter. I think they are trying to make Romney a tough competitor to make this look like a competitive race. So we'll all be divided. Number one, we'll pump our money in and participate and be distracted by it. Number two, but most importantly, there were millions of people out there that supported a better candidate. And I'll throw Ron Paul out there. Not perfect, but way better than these guys. Okay, I mean, imagine the debates with Ron Paul in them right now, and it's a whole different world. And if they saw Romney was as limp as he really is, no pun intended, that he was losing by 20, 30 points, they'd be pretty pissed off that they didn't pick their candidate. So this is kind of a way to put the ether on anyone supporting anyone else besides Romney being that nominee who they hand chose to be the nominee. That's why we call him Obamney. So the fact of the matter, when it gets down to it, they're pretty much the same. They come from different backgrounds. Look, Bush was a socialist. So you call Bush was Hitler. You call Obama a socialist and Hitler, and people get very upset with you, but it ain't any different. And it won't be any different getting Romney. I mean, what we're talking about here is going over the cliff at 120 miles an hour or 110 miles an hour. And that's what's going to happen with both of these guys unless we smarten up. So politics, if voting ever solved anything, it would be illegal, said Emma Goldman. And I happen to agree with that.
Very good metaphor about the cliff diving, so to speak. So we're moving forward with a capital O, is what you're saying in this election.
Forward march, baby.
Right. Goose step extraordinaire. Now there was a huge effort to make it really look like Romney is somebody, that he's really a pretty good politician, and that he has a plan, and there is almost nothing. I mean, even in the liberal media, there isn't really anything about the real Mitt Romney. There's a video going around there now called Romney Exposed, which puts his fingerprints on the Libyan attack and working with George Bush and laundering money back during Iran-Contra drug money and some pretty nasty things, and they need to certainly be super investigated, but there's no mention of anything. And so what are we supposed to believe? Well, Romney's kind of a boring, milk-drinking Mormon. Not true. And they're not even going after him. It seems like the talking points are pervasive no matter what wing of the media you're in. As long as it's establishment media, they're pushing both of these guys. So here it is. We hand chose these people. Because let's face it, the media picked these people. Okay? They did it. Whoever owns the media picked these people by centering and putting so much attention on them. And now they want to justify it. That's all, right? Correcto. The media, they need a horse race. They need a very close race, or else they have nothing to freak out about, right?
Well, read Tragedy and Hope or study Carol Quigley, who was Bill Clinton's mentor at Georgetown and admitted globalist and admitted Fabian socialist. And that's exactly what he said. I don't know why we're hiding the New World Order from these people, one world government, because we should just tell them and sell it to them and tell them how great it is, which is kind of what we're seeing now today. And he also said, look, I mean, it's a scam to think that there's a choice. You know, we have all the people. Or APAC or, you know, whoever's paying the breakfast tab here, they have all these people involved. And when you get an outsider like Ron Paul come in, I mean, if you never thought the media was corrupt and lied and completely – I've been to rallies where there's thousands of people, and I'd see it on the news, and they'd show it when it was all over, 2 people milling around, and just completely lie about it. And then they'd focus in on Obama, 3 guys on a corner doing an Obama rally and tight focus on them and tell us that there's thousands of people there. I mean, I've seen the media completely lie about this stuff, and it's been the last, you know, for me, even as much as I've learned, for the last, you know, whatever it is, 5-6 years, have been a huge eye-opener for me.
Yeah, what do you think we can expect from the Pauls, both father and son, in the short-term future?
It's over. That's it. I mean, you know, Dr. Paul is the elder, is heading up Campaign for Liberty, and they'll go out and they'll be working in the political realm, doing some political stuff and endorsing candidates and helping raise money for candidates, and you know, and they'll be kind of fear mongering. They're taking your guns, send us money, that kind of thing. This has all been broken wide open, unfortunately. Dr. Paul has certainly done his service. As far as the younger Dr. Paul, he's become a neocon, in my opinion. You can tell me all he wants about how he's just playing the game to help us for liberty, but I look at the stuff he says and does, and there isn't a ring of what his dad did and talked about all those years. And I've done events and spoken at events that were, you know, me and Ron Paul have been speakers, and so I've met him and talked to him quite a bit, and I've known people that are very, very close to him. His son, let's say the apple fell very far from the tree in this case, and so there is going to have to be another figurehead or icon. But look, I mean, I remember when hardly anyone knew who Ron Paul was. He used to come on my show all the time, and you know, we made that. He didn't make that. We made that. We chose him, and we pushed him, and we funded him, and we made that.
You built that.
That's right. Nice. So there's going to have to be another figurehead. But really, we need to remember it's all of us. We are all the molecules of the body, and the body doesn't get up unless every molecule works together and pushes it and gets it up. And that's the important thing to remember. And it's not about collectivism. It's still about individualism. But, hey, man, like I said, politics, the political revolution is nothing until, and this is what they really want to stop, and this is what they're really working hard to correct, is the cultural revolution, man, that it is cool to love liberty, that it's cool to be, and I've seen this really, some of my old friends that never would listen to me are now all coming around because it's cool. It's kind of a fad. So you have to be able to be one step ahead with the music, the film, the art, the literature, and even the internet, and be creative, because that's what captures people's imagination, and that's the true revolution that can change things overnight. The political stuff, it's a nice part of all of this. It's kind of the speaking points, the talking points to some of this, but it doesn't actually do anything. So, I mean, it is kind of an exercise in futility.
Do you think that this whole movement, the truth movement, as it's so dubbed, has not outlived its usefulness, but it's sort of jumped the shark? Do you think there's so many hucksters and full of shit people involved in it that it's muddied the waters?
It's always been that way. So.
Yeah, true. Very true.
You know, it's just when you're in it long enough, you begin to see it. There's new people coming in right now that are falling for some of the charlatans you might be hinting at, and they're going to have to go through it too. We just hope that they'll go faster. Things will move a little faster. So yeah, I mean, like I said before, people are people wherever you go. There's no church you can go to where everybody's just wonderful and doesn't kill and steal and think about, you know, taking your woman away from you or whatever it is, you know. And that's just something you have to grow up and realize. And I've been in the so-called, I have never been in the movement, but I've been around the truth movement and the freedom movement and the patriot movement and all these movements, Occupy and Tea Party, for years and years and years. And, some of them are maybe a little bit better than others. But one thing I found, especially about the truth movement, is they don't like hearing the truth a lot of the time. So, and that being said, it is, this is the evolution of us empowering ourselves. So, look, good leaders out there, they'll create other leaders. Yeah, and that's something you look at. And, be around people that are positive and doing stuff, and you'll have a good life. And that's important,
Yeah, to me, it really does connect to that Zen-like Buddhist sort of philosophy, which means it's an individual process, right?
It might be from your own perspective. There are people in the world right now that think that everything's perfect.
True. If it's working for you, and that's sort of the buffer between a lot of people realizing stuff. If things are working for you and you're making money and you got a good job and a nice family, then why would you shock yourself like that by waking up, so-called?
Well, and that's where another problem with the powers that be is they always go a little too far. It's imperial hubris. And it's more complicated in this day and age. And, you push people a little too far, and that's when they begin waking up. So we got a lot of people lost their houses and are working for half as much as they used to, buying half as much as they were able to with the same dollar. And they're realizing something's terribly wrong here. And that is, again, because of this greed and imperial hubris by the usual suspects, as I'll call them. So, hey, keep doing that, guys. Whoever you are out there, we know some of you guys out there, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, kings, queens, powers that be. Keep pushing. I like it. As George Bush once said, bring it on. Because I think it really helps our cause sometimes.
But is our children learning, Jack?
Right.
As we glide in for a nice smooth landing here, I'll just to get some future predictions from you. What do you think America will look like in 15 to 20 years?
It's funny that you're talking about predictions. I don't make them. But you know what was weird today while we were on the air? There was a big picture of Monica Lewinsky, who's writing a tell-all book about Bill Clinton and maybe some of the other people she worked for. And underneath it on the Drudge Report, it says R.I.P. There's no... Okay, the RIP story is about Newsweek, which is, eliminating its print magazine and going all electronic, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
The way they make it look as if they're going to get her. So that's one of my predictions. Monica Lewinsky will die here pretty soon. I don't make predictions. You can't. People ask me because I'm an analyst and not an analyst, an analyst.
No.
And I'm a pundit and whatnot. And they go, well, how's it going to look? And I'll tell you. And I'm usually pretty close in the short term of things. But I just don't know sometimes, man, because, it just takes one event to change everything. And we saw that with 9/11, for instance. I think it backfired on them. And we did wake a lot of people up. So the future looks basically in the technotronic era that Brzezinski talked about. It looks like Brave New World and 1984 on steroids if you don't do something. And this is the important thing to understand. This isn't relative. This didn't happen to your great-great-great-grandfather. They didn't have, global positioning satellites, and they didn't have the technology and non-lethal weapons and atomic bombs and laser technology and all the things they have today. So it's so important to understand that since we're the first computer generation, we're the first high-tech generation, and it isn't, again, relative. It doesn't have – you can't compare this to the Industrial Revolution or anything. There is nowhere to hide. They will take every last piece of freedom. They will use a DNA technology to engineer perfect slave humans. And if you don't do something about it and you stick your children with that, they're going to spit on your graves. They are going to curse the day that you were ever around and that you didn't do anything and didn't stand up. So everybody can do a little part, a little piece here and there, and we could change this. We could stop it. We can curb it. We can monitor it. Otherwise, man, you give them another 10, 15 years at this, if we, at and it'll be too late. There'll be no way to really reverse it, and that's just my opinion. It's not a prediction.
Yeah, it's a natural extension of all this. Now, do you think so many people are aware, at least on a basic level, of this stuff nowadays, that it's sort of destined to fail?
No, because they're not aware of what they're up against, and they can't be. Look, people have been dumbed down severely by things like fluoride, by
television,
what's in the air, by genetically modified food, and even, mind control boxes like, 5,000 channels of programming. Unfortunately, I don't know, we might have hit an apex. We might have hit a fulcrum on that a few years ago. It's hard to tell. It might already be too late. I don't want to be a fatalist. I certainly will never give up. And I think as long as human consciousness has some form of freedom within its own self, that there's always a chance, because you have to trick people into this, which is what Huxley wrote in Brave New World. You have to get people to beg for their own slavery. But boy, have we lost a lot of ground, even just in the last couple of years. I mean, they are working 24 hours a day, 24/7, overdrive. They have all the money and all the greatest minds at their disposal. Boy, I mean, we're really dug ourselves a hole here. So, I mean, again, like I said, that's why you can't let somebody else do this. You've got to find a little piece you can do, everybody, every day. Many hands make light work. And we got to speed up the process here, because the fact that we're already in a new world order. We're already in world government with the economy. It is a global economy. There's a lot of things that they're not telling us have happened, and so we're really far behind. And I hope we can catch up, because they're not using the incrementalism they used to. They're going very fast now, as if it's a race. So I hope people, if you're doing something out there, double it. If you're not doing anything, just find a little something that you're passionate about, whether it's getting fluoride out of your municipal water, or cleaning up your air, or, stopping the microchipping of your children, or whatever you're going to draw the line. Go ahead and do a little something.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately we're going to need, especially with technology, we're going to need a citizens panel to watch this whole thing. People that cannot be corrupted, that are constantly revolving out so they can't be paid off and corrupted. And they need to watch all this DARPA technology and the Technotronic era, Brzezinski said, would be ruled by a few elites, unrestrained by morals and values. So there's the warning, and I think most people are aware of that. What to do next is the tough part, and it's just as simple as this. Decentralize and repeal. There you go. There you go, folks. We're all set.
There we go. And if all else fails, we still have bath salts. So,
there you go.
Yeah, you can't divide by 0. You can only divide by 1 or more. And I think that
go decentralize something. Go out and help repeal something, and you've done a little bit today.
Agreed.
So, hey man, Scott, it's been great being on. Send me the link to this when it's all done, and we'll put it out for our people. And I just really appreciate you giving me a little bit of a soapbox here and some time to talk to you. People can go check me out at deadlinelive.info. That's my website. We have many. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter at Jack Blood. And we're on multiple networks, including the No Agenda Global Radio Network, Monday through Friday, 10 in the morning until 12 noon Eastern Time. Hope you don't mind. I actually promoted my work here.
No, I was going to lead you into it, but you're such a pro that you went there yourself. Yeah, man, that's pretty much it. I feel like I've been listening to your show, yet you're on mine. It's a beautiful thing, man, and I really appreciate it.
Keep up the good work and stay bold. Mighty forces will come to your aid. Thanks, man.
And there it is. Thank you, Jack.
RNADrink.com. Expand your reality. Control your destiny. Take your power back. The most talked about nutritional supplement on the market is now here, available for you to purchase now. RNAdrink.com.
From the beginning of time, man has sought always to achieve more. And finally, we have AchieveRadio.com, the positive side of broadcasting.